Good morning, Ms. Duke. Thank you for meeting with me in my office. Thank you for your long career in public service. And I'll give a special shout out. Anybody who has studied in New Hampshire is good in my book. So thank you very much for being here. I want to just start by echoing what Senator Portman was just alluding to. I'm a co-sponsor on the STOP Act. My state, as his, has been just devastated by this epidemic, and in particular now, the use and importation of fentanyl. And what we're learning, among other things, is how creative the drug cartels are. This is money-making business for them. They do not care about people's lives. And we are going to need to work together, all levels of government, to stop it, both addressing the supply as well as the demand side. So I'm grateful for the discussion we had about it. I'm grateful for all of the members of this committee who are committed to helping stop this epidemic. And I was very glad to hear you just now talk about the importance of information sharing. As a former governor, I know the importance of sharing Fed, state, local, especially around this issue. So thank you for your commitment and understanding of that. We spoke briefly in my office about your commitment, and you mentioned it in your testimony and your policy questionnaire, to a threat-based approach to decision-making. And I'm wondering if you could just briefly talk a little bit more about what that means to you and what you think the department needs to do.
Yes, Senator. What that means to me is that we have a limited number of resources in the United States. And when we are making decisions with Homeland Security resources, we must spend every incremental dollar on the solution that's going to buy down the most risk. And these are important decisions both in the budget cycle, in moving personnel resources and going forward. And that requires good data. It changes over time, and we just need to be on top of that.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I want to then, following up on that, talk a little bit about one of the things that the ranking member also mentioned, concerning TSA cuts. Last September, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Nick Rasmussen, testified before this committee that, and these are his words, terrorists remain focused on aviation targets because they recognize the economic damage that may result from even unsuccessful attempts to down aircraft or against airline terminals, as well as the high loss of life and the attention media devotes to these attacks. So the report that we saw yesterday in Politico indicated that the Office of Management and Budget is considering making a number of cuts to the Department of Homeland Security in order to pay for the president's border wall and to hire more border and immigration officers. Among the cuts was an 11% reduction in TSA's budget, or a little under $1 billion. That's truly a devastating cut, and it means less security against aviation threats from al-Qaeda and ISIS. So do you support cutting aviation security to pay for the president's border wall?
I commit to you that I will look at the budget. DHS, every mission is important and really under-resourced at this critical time. Secret Service, the Coast Guard with its human trafficking, drug interdiction. So I commit that I will look at the budget very carefully if confirmed.
Well, I thank you for that commitment. I would just suggest that if we are truly committed to threat-based management at DHS, and if the director of the National Counterterrorism Center says that terrorists want to attack our aviation system, that the suggestion when we would cut $1 billion from aviation security is very, very concerning. And so I hope you will take a close look at it and that you'll be able to come back to this committee and commit to fighting cuts to TSA.
I will, and I will also use that intelligence from that organization and others.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to do was follow up a little bit on my colleagues' the questions and concerns around the opioid epidemic. We've talked about how devastating it is. We know that the flow of narcotics across the southern border absolutely contributes to the epidemic, but it's not the only route, to Senator Portman's point, through which drugs get into our country. The security of our northern border lacks the resources and attentions paid to our southern border, while fentanyl, a key precursor drug, is being shipped in country from China in particular, and it's poisoning our young people and killing them. Additionally, our maritime borders stretch thousands of miles and have been a popular way for drug smugglers for years. And as mentioned by the ranking member, the Coast Guard plays a key role in interdicting maritime drug shipments. So again, going back to the Politico article yesterday which reported that OMB was considering cutting Coast Guard's budget by 14%, or about $1.5 billion. And I would suggest that the U.S. Coast Guard is already feeling pretty under-resourced. Again, this is a cut being suggested by OMB in order to pay for the president's wall. I'm having a hard time understanding the logic of a move like this. If we build a wall along the southern border and gut the Coast Guard in the process, you know, what we've seen from these drug cartels is that they're creative, and I just think that incentivizes the cartels to smuggle more drugs across our maritime boundaries. So I'm really looking for you to be able to outline steps to ensure that DHS employs a comprehensive approach to battling narcotics trafficking, stopping the opioid epidemic, and don't just focus, you know, the southern border security is incredibly important, but you know, we have to be smart about this, and we have to use what you called this threat-based assessment process. And I'm really concerned that from what I'm reading, the administration is not following that path. So I'm just hoping I can get a commitment from you to really help do this in a strategic way.
I will. I know you recognize also that this is a very much interagency function, but DHS does play a part of this. I committed to Senator Heitkamp to visit the northern border to learn more about its geography and the threat there. And you're right, the Coast Guard does play an important mission in drug interdiction also in addition to the land. So you have my commitment.
Well, and I thank you. And the last thing I'd say as I'm running out of time is just the other thing that we should all be thinking about. Law enforcement has spoken very compellingly about the fact that we can't arrest our way out of this opioid epidemic, that it's going to take a combination of prevention, treatment, as well as law enforcement. So I look forward to having further conversations with you about how DHS can partner in that effort too.
Thank you.
Thank you.